My sister, Dr. Cassandra Vega, disappeared on October 23rd at precisely 3:33 a.m. The security footage from her lab at Chronos Industries shows her walking into the quantum entanglement chamber, carrying a small cooler and what looks like a houseplant. She never walks out. The chamber was empty when security entered 4 hours later. No plant, no cooler, no Cass. The police filed a missing persons report. Her colleagues shrugged, brilliant but eccentric. She probably went on a spontaneous research trip. Our parents, retired academics living in Portugal, insisted she'd turn up. But I knew. I'm Maya, her younger sister by 8 years. A freelance graphic designer with anxiety and a stubborn streak. Cass and I had a bond that transcended logic. We shared an apartment, inside jokes in dead languages, and the same mole behind our left ear. I knew when she was stressed, when she was happy, when she was lying. And the week before she vanished, she was terrified. She'd been working on something called Temporal Coherence Protocol, or TCP. She couldn't tell me details. Classified. Corporate research, but she'd come home with her hands shaking, making coffee with 3 espresso shots, muttering about ethical paradoxes and causal loops. Promise me something, she'd said 3 days before she disappeared, gripping my shoulders with an intensity that bruised. If anything happens to me, anything weird, look for Schrödinger. Not the thought experiment. The cat. What cat? Cass, you're allergic to cats. Exactly, she'd whispered, her eyes haunted. Exactly. After she vanished, I broke into her lab. Not a full break-in. I still had the spare key she'd given me for emergencies. The quantum entanglement chamber was a sterile white room the size of a tennis court, dominated by a massive ring of what looked like liquid mercury suspended in midair. It hummed at a frequency that made my teeth ache. Her workstation was wiped clean, except for one thing. Taped underneath her keyboard, I found a USB drive. It was bright pink, the kind I used in college. On it, written in her precise handwriting with a Sharpie, for Maya only, password. Where we buried the time capsule. P.S. Don't trust the cats. The time capsule reference was easy. We'd buried one in the backyard of our childhood home in 2005. The coordinates were etched in my memory. The cats part made no sense. I raced home, locked my apartment door, and plugged in the drive. The password worked. The drive contained 3 files. 1, video log. 2, protocol omega. 3, the final equation. I opened the video first. Cass appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like a bunker, concrete walls, harsh fluorescent light. She looked exhausted but alive. The timestamp read October 30th, a week after her disappearance. Maya, if you're watching this, I'm either dead or not here. I've breached causality. The TCP isn't a communication protocol. It's a bridge. Chronos isn't trying to send data through time. They're trying to send people, and they've succeeded in a way. She took a shuddering breath. The cats aren't animals. They're chronological anomaly terminators. AI constructs designed to clean up paradoxes. They look like whatever is most harmless, most unsuspicious in the environment, a stray cat, a pigeon, a friendly dog. But they're hunters. They erase inconsistencies, and I've become one. She explained that during a test, her consciousness was duplicated across 6 parallel timelines. One version of her remained in our original timeline, the other 5 splintered off. But the anchor version, the one who belonged, had to remain. The others were paradoxes, and the cats were coming for them. For her, the other mez, they're trying to survive. They're hiding in the temporal eddies, the places where time is thin. Old hotels, theaters, certain intersections. They're scared, and they're dangerous. Because if 2 of us occupy the same causal space for too long, it creates a tear. The cats will come, and they'll erase everything in the vicinity to fix it. She leaned closer to the camera. I need you to find the other versions of me. Maya, find them and give them this. She held up a data chip. It contains the final equation. It will allow us to merge back or fade cleanly. It's the only way to stop the cascade. But you have to be careful. Some of them might not be entirely Cass anymore. Time does things to a person. The video ended. I sat in my dark apartment, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was insanity. Quantum physics meets a supernatural thriller. Then I heard it. A soft thump at my window. I looked over. On the fire escape, silhouetted against the city lights, sat a cat. A perfectly ordinary tabby cat. It stared at me with unblinking green eyes. Then it opened its mouth, and instead of a meow, a distorted, synthetic voice emerged like a text-to-speech program. Anomaly detected. Primary timeline contamination. Beginning cleanup protocol. The cat's form shimmered like a heat haze. Its edges blurred. It was no longer a cat, but a shifting, fractal shape of light and shadow, hovering just beyond the glass. I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed my laptop, the USB drive, and my car keys and ran out the back door. The cats don't follow you constantly. They're like temporal antibodies. They swarm when the infection of paradox is active. I lost the one at my apartment by driving to a 24-hour laundromat and sitting among 20 other people. The cat appeared outside watching through the glass but didn't approach. It seems public, crowded spaces disrupt their focus. They thrive on isolation. Cass's research notes mentioned temporal eddies, places where time loops or layers thin. Her first clue was the Paramount Theater, built in 1928. She said it existed in a persistent state of temporal superposition, always showing films from multiple eras simultaneously if you knew how to look. I went at 3 a.m., bribing the night watchman with a story about being a film student. The theater was cavernous and dark, the red velvet seats like sleeping beasts. I walked down the aisle, playing Cass's video on my phone, whispering her name. A hand clamped over my mouth from behind. "Shut up, it hears names," a voice hissed in my ear. A voice that was Cass's, but roughened by decades of cigarettes that my sister never smoked. She dragged me into a small door marked props that led not to a storage room, but to a fully furnished studio apartment, frozen in the late 1990s, a Friends poster, a beige box computer, the smell of CK1 perfume. This version of Cass was older. Not in years, she still looked 34, but in spirit. Her eyes held a weary eternity. She called herself Casey. "I've been here since the breach," she said, lighting a cigarette. October 23rd, 1998, the anchor point for this eddy. I can leave the theater, but the world outside, it's a convincing facade, but it's static. If I go more than 5 blocks, the people become mannequins. The cars repeat their movements. The cats patrol the perimeter. I'm in a beautiful, detailed prison. She'd been reliving a slice of 1998 for what felt like 25 years. "You have the equation?" she asked, her eyes desperate. I showed her the file on my laptop. She scanned it, her physicist's mind absorbing the complex mathematics. Her face fell. "This isn't a reintegration protocol. This is a targeted deletion algorithm. It's a clean way for the cats to erase us. Anesthetic before the execution." My blood ran cold. The Cass in the video had lied? Or had she been deceived? "Maybe she didn't know," I whispered. Casey laughed bitterly. "The original Cass, the one who stayed in your timeline, she made a deal. Maya, Kronos offered her something? Unlimited funding? Immortality? Who knows? But she sold us out, the other splinters. We're the waste products of her experiment, and she's helping them tidy us up. The cat found us then. It didn't look like a cat anymore. It had taken the form of the theater's old projectionist, a man named Joe who died in 2005. It walked with a stiff, unnatural gait down the aisle, its head rotating 180 degrees to look at our hiding spot. "Time to go," Casey said. She handed me a pager, a working 1990s pager. "I've made contact with one of the others. She's in a worse place, a moving eddy. She'll reach out. Don't trust the anchor, Cass. And for God's sake, don't trust anything cute and furry." She pushed me toward a back exit that opened not into an alley, but into the basement of the city library, a place I recognized as being 10 miles from the theater. I stumbled out, the door slamming shut behind me. When I turned back, it was just a solid cement wall. The pager buzzed in my hand, a phone number and a message. "Hello, sister. Train to nowhere. Come quickly. She's hunting me too." The number led me to a decommissioned subway station, closed since the 1970s. Graffiti covered the walls, and the air smelled of damp and ozone. As I stood on the empty platform, a train silently pulled in, not a modern subway car, but a sleek silver bullet train with no markings. The doors hissed open, empty. The pager buzzed again. "Get on!" I stepped inside. The doors closed and the train moved without a sound, plunging into a tunnel that shouldn't have existed. The windows didn't show darkness. They showed flickering scenes, like old home movies projected on the glass. A birthday party, a funeral, a first kiss, a car crash. Hundreds of intimate, devastating human memories. I found the second Cass in the dining car. She was dressed in a conductor's uniform, but it was frayed and stained. This version was twitchy, her fingers constantly moving as if typing on an invisible keyboard. She called herself Cassandra Prime. "This train runs on chronon particles and regret," she said without looking at me. "It travels along the tracks of people's most potent memories. It's how I've stayed hidden." The cats can't track something that exists purely in subjective experience. But she's found a way. Anchor Cass? Who else? She's using a resonance beacon, tuning it to my specific quantum signature. She'll drag this train into objective reality, and the cats will board and clean house. She finally looked at me. Her pupils were pinpricks. She gave you the equation. It's a homing beacon, isn't it? The moment you accessed it, it started pinging my location. I felt like a fool. I pulled out my laptop, the one with the equation file. Can we delete it? Destroy it? Too late. The signal is embedded in your device's hardware now, but we can use it. Turn her weapon into a trap. Her plan was insane. We'd let Anchor Cass pull the train into reality at a specific location, place saturated with temporal energy that would amplify the equation's effects unpredictably. She chose the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, the world's biggest particle accelerator. If we're going to cause a paradox, let's make it a spectacular one. As we prepared, Cassandra Prime showed me what the train really was. It wasn't just a vehicle. It was a living record. The memories in the windows weren't random. They were the last memories of people who had vanished in temporal accidents, their consciousnesses absorbed into the train's engine. She was its conductor and its prisoner. "We're all prisoners. Maya," she whispered, as we watched a memory of a little girl learning to ride a bike. "Even her. She thinks she's free, but Kronos owns her. They've just given her a longer leash." The train shuddered violently. The memory windows shattered into static. Red lights flashed along the carriage. A synthesized voice, the same as the cat's, echoed through the car. "Paradox located. Manifesting in objective space. Prepare for containment." Outside the windows, the tunnel walls solidified into concrete. We were materializing inside a massive, brightly lit scientific facility, the CERN complex. "Here we go," Cassandra Prime said, gripping a control panel. "When she comes, hit the laptop's enter key. It'll execute the equation." A figure stepped onto the platform outside our car. It was Cass, my Cass. But she wore a black Kronos uniform, and her eyes glowed with a faint blue electronic light. Behind her, a dozen cats swarmed, their forms shifting between animals and humanoid shapes of pure darkness. "Hello, Maya," Anchor Cass said, her voice echoing with a slight reverb. "You've been busy. Please step away from the paradox. This is for your own safety." "You sold them out," I screamed. "They're you." "They're imperfections. Copy errors. I am the original. The only one that matters." She raised a device that looked like a futuristic remote. "Final warning." I looked at Cassandra Prime. She nodded. I slammed the enter key. Nothing happened for a second. Then the equation executed, but not as a deletion protocol. It began rewriting itself, lines of code scrolling faster than the eye could see. Cassandra Prime had hacked it in the seconds I'd given her. The train's engine screamed. The memory windows blazed with blinding white light. The cats shrieked, a digital, agonized sound. And Anchor Cass staggered, clutching her head. "What did you do?" she gasped. I linked the equation to the train's memory core. Cassandra Prime yelled over the noise. "You wanted to delete us? Fine. But you'll have to delete every memory you've ever had first. Every moment that made you Cass. Every memory of Mom, Dad, Maya. They're all in here." It was a bluff, a brilliant, desperate bluff. The train couldn't hold real memories, only echoes. But Anchor Cass didn't know that. The connection between her and the other splinters meant she felt the threat as real. The temporal feedback loop erupted. A shockwave of distorted time expanded from the train, freezing the cats in place like bugs in amber, and throwing Anchor Cass through the air. In the chaos, Cassandra Prime shoved me toward an emergency exit. "Go, find the third." "She's the key. She's the one who chose to leave." The door opened not onto the CERN facility, but into a sun-drenched, endless field of wheat. I fell through and the door vanished behind me. I was somewhere else. Someone else. My phone, useless for days, suddenly had a signal, 1 bar, and a text message from an unknown number received 2 years ago. "If you're reading this, you've survived the first 2. I'm sorry, I'm at the lighthouse. It's almost dawn, hurry." The message was from my own number. The wheat field existed under a perpetual sunset. The sky was a bruised purple and orange, the sun forever hanging on the horizon. I walked for what felt like hours until I saw it. A lighthouse, standing on a cliff overlooking a sea of swirling, iridescent fog that wasn't water. It was time itself, raw and chaotic. This was the worst place Casey had mentioned. A moving eddy at the very fraying edge of causality. The third Cass opened the door before I could knock. This version was calm, centered, dressed in simple linen clothes. Her eyes held a deep, ancient sorrow. She introduced herself as Catherine, a name from our great-grandmother. I didn't hide from the cats, she said, brewing tea in the lighthouse's small kitchen. I walked to the edge and kept going. This is where time breaks down into its constituent parts. It's painful to exist here, but it's pure, no lies. She was the splinter who had discovered the truth first. The original experiment wasn't an accident. Cass had been trying to create a stable, parallel version of herself to take her place, a clone to satisfy Kronos' demands while the real Cass escaped. But the process had fractured her instead of copying her. Each of us represents an aspect of her she wanted to amplify or discard, Catherine explained. Casey is her nostalgia, her longing for simpler times. Cassandra Prime is her intellect, her cold logic. I am her conscience, her guilt. And there are 2 more. The video said there were 5 splinters total, I remembered. Yes, the 4th is her rage. Her ambition. She calls herself Kronos now. She's fully merged with the corporation. She's the one who's been hunting us, using the cats. The anchor Cass you met at CERN was just a proxy, a remote-controlled puppet. The real anchor is gone. Kronos Cass killed her and took her place. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. My real sister was dead, had been dead since the beginning. The 5th? I asked, my voice trembling. Catherine looked toward the top of the lighthouse. The 5th is Hope, the part of Cass that believed in redemption. She's been waiting at the top of this tower for years, maintaining the lighthouse beacon. It's what's been keeping this eddy stable, and what's been calling the cats away from the others, focusing their attention here. She's been sacrificing herself so Casey and Cassandra Prime could survive a little longer. I climbed the spiral, stairs to the top of the lighthouse. In the lens room, surrounded by the blinding, pure light of the beacon, sat the 5th Cass. She looked youngest of all, almost childlike. She smiled when she saw me. Hi, Maya, I knew you'd come. Her name was Ilara, after a moon of Jupiter. She was the Cass that could have been if she'd chosen a different path, softer, kinder, less driven by ambition. The beacon can't hold much longer, Ilara said. The cats are massing in the fog below. Kronos Cass is coming. And she's bringing something worse than cats. She's bringing the erasure. I learned the final, horrible truth. Kronos Industries' endgame wasn't time travel. It was time ownership. They wanted to collapse all parallel timelines into one stable, controllable stream, their stream. The erasure was a device that would permanently sever all branching possibilities. Billions of potential lives, worlds, histories gone. And our fractured Cass was the key. Her splintered consciousness was the perfect map of quantum variance. By reintegrating us or destroying us, Kronos would have the template for their weapon. We have to stop her, I said. We can't, Ilara said softly, but you can choose. She explained the only way out. The lighthouse wasn't just a beacon. It was a focusing lens for temporal energy. At dawn, the real dawn, which only came once a century in this place, the light would be powerful enough to enact a single, permanent change. I can use it to send one of us back, Ilara said. One version of Cass to the moment before the experiment. With all our memories, she could stop it from happening. But only one. The rest will fade. The paradox will resolve itself. So I have to choose which sister lives? I felt sick. Casey stuck in 1998? Cassandra Prime on her memory train? You here, Catherine the conscience? Or do I let Kronos Cass win and condemn all possible futures? Not just which sister, Ilara corrected. Which aspect, which part of Cass deserves to be the foundation of a new life? Her nostalgia? Her intellect? Her conscience? Her hope? Or her ambition? The weight of the choice crushed me. How do you choose the core of a person? Down below, the fog began to boil. Dark shapes moved within it, thousands of cats, and at their center, a towering, monstrous form, Kronos Cass, grown to giant size, her body fused with chrome and wires, her eyes burning with blue fire. Sisters! Her voice boomed, shaking the lighthouse. The age of paradox ends at dawn. Return to me and be made whole in glory, or be erased. Catherine joined us in the lens room. Dawn is coming, she said, pointing to the horizon where the eternal sunset was finally, slowly, beginning to brighten. My pager buzzed. A message from Cassandra Prime, transmitted across time and space. The train is heading your way. I'm bringing the memory archive. If we go down, we take every memory of her with us. Another buzz from Casey broke out of the theater, bringing 1998. With me, let's see how she likes a world of nirvana and dial-up. They were coming, to fight, to die, to give me a choice. I looked at my sisters, the conscience, the hope, and soon the nostalgia and the intellect. Each a piece of the woman I loved, each worthy of survival. The dawn's first true ray broke over the horizon, striking the lighthouse lens. The beam that shot out was no longer white, but a prism of every possible color. Chronos Cass screamed and charged. The ghost train materialized out of the fog, plowing into the army of cats. And I reached for the lens controls, my hand hovering over the selector that would choose which aspect of Cassandra Vega would get to live her life again. I made my choice, but before I tell you what I chose, I need to ask you something. Look out your window, right now. Do you see a cat watching you? A bird that seems too still? A friendly dog that doesn't blink? If you do close this page, don't trust them. And remember, time isn't a line. It's a garden, and someone is always trying to prune it. My name is Maya Vega. My sister was Dr. Cassandra Vega, and if you're reading this, the choice I made didn't work. Or maybe it worked too well, because I think I'm not in my original timeline anymore, and the cat on my windowsill just started talking.